Hello, Bailey Howard, NTV. We've heard a lot of talk about Churchill Falls and Gull Island being on the national projects list. What sort of responsibility does that mean Canada has in these projects? And if they were to go south, what sort of repercussions would there be then for the federal government as well?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that both of those projects and a longer list of opportunities, enormous opportunities, obviously, in Newfoundland and Labrador, and I think enormous enthusiasm and energy in order to help realize those. So I think of them not going south, I think of them going north, in this case, to use the analogy, going forward and building. And part of where the federal government comes in, and it depends on the project. There's different ways that we have a role. And by the way, sometimes the answer to our role is just get out of the way. The project's going to move forward, province has it in hand, and the federal government steps back and focuses on other things. But in a variety of cases, it will be working on making sure the appropriate environmental assessments are done, other regulatory concerns, and as much as possible done in cooperation with the province. And we're working with the province on a cooperation agreement that will help make that even more efficient. So that's one aspect. There's other aspects where a project will have, particularly something on clean energy, for example, will have tremendous ancillary benefits for the economy. In other words, it sets us up, sets Newfoundland and Labrador, but Canada as well, up for the future in terms of decades. And in those cases, sometimes through the tax system, other aspects, we can provide incentives to move those projects forward as well. Third area is in training. Now, first and foremost, the responsibility of the provinces, but working with the provinces to make sure people are getting the skills so that these major investments are benefiting people like the workers surrounding us, their families, their friends, their neighbors, because the scale of ambition in this province and in this country isn't just, and not that your question implied this, one project, but a series of projects, a series of major investments. So we're really sending the message that this is 30 years of work. These are good, high-paying careers, and the federal government can help make sure that workers have the opportunity to get the skills. So like Jenny, sorry Chief Jenny, I don't want to keep singling you out, but you get the welder's ticket, you get the boilermaker's ticket, you get the IT skills in other examples, so that you can fully take advantage of those.
Next question. Hi, Ashley Fitzpatrick with Atlantic Business Magazine.
Okay.
I'm wondering about the amount of money that you're talking about here, $80 million split across 4 provinces and all small and medium-sized enterprises. Does this realistically actually serve all of the needs that are going to be out there? If you look at even the Chinese tariffs on shellfish, for instance, a sustained tariff there is going to be devastating. Can this really help manage what's going to be tremendous impact for folks who aren't necessarily going to become boilermakers or serve the major projects? Yeah, no,
so I think the first thing to say is part of the way we allocate, look, $1 billion is a lot of money. The overall format, $1 billion is a lot of money. And what we're allocating here is bigger than the relative share of population, the relative share of GDP of the overall Canadian economy, allocated that way. The second is it's channeled, as I said, through ACOA, the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. And it's one of multiple projects or policies, initiatives that's channeled through ACOA. And then on top of that, we have the Business Development Bank programs as well. On top of that, we have various liquidity facilities that are available as well. So there's lots of ways to help businesses get time to develop the plan and make the pivot. I'll make another point, though. I just want to reinforce something the Premier was saying, because I think it's so important. There is a connection between these big projects and a small business. These big projects, even in the early days of the development of the engineering for these projects, the early work in the steel and fabrication industry and other, they create tremendous amount of activity as well. And since we're focused, and this is a key element of our strategy that we announced last Friday, since the federal government's very focused of, if we're putting Canadian taxpayer dollars at work into moving these big projects forward, and in other areas, we expect buy Canadian. We expect to buy Canadian steel. We expect to use Canadian IT professionals, Canadian HR, and on and on and on. And so that starts to really add up, and we're going to have to look at the whole, and we're going to add to this as necessary going forward.
just had a quick follow-up, and that's in terms of regional distribution. I'm wondering, do you find yourself right now pulled between the provinces in terms of their different demands, and is that becoming difficult for you to navigate in any way?
We are working very close. I'd answer it differently. We're working very closely with the provinces. We know which we work closely. I work closely with the Premier. We know which industries also are most immediately affected. They're the so-called strategic industry for the Americans: steel, aluminum, forest products, automobiles, copper, pharma to come. And then we can see the connections to other sectors from that. So we can target that way, and yes, there's a different regional distribution of each of those industries, so we're aware of that. But we're also conscious of the knock-on effects of those tariffs. So we don't want to overly concentrate just on the strategic sectors. And it's an ugly term. Maybe it's not ugly, but it's just complicated. These are agnostic, neutral across different industries, that what we're announcing. So you don't have to directly have a tariff impact in order to have them. But let me say one last thing, which is to focus again on the forward. And standing here, we see examples of this. These Coast Guard ships, icebreakers, and others like them are going to help open up opportunities. They are also going to be invested in, future examples are going to be invested in through our defense industrial strategy. To protect Canada, to make our country secure, we're going to spend a very large amount of money to make this country secure in a world that's much more dangerous. Now, we're going to spend it in a way that's smart. We're going to spend it in a way that helps shipyards in Canada, where skilled trades people in Canada are working on developing that. Right now, or up until now, the country has been sending 70 cents in every dollar of military procurement outside of Canada to the United States, and that's going to change, and that's part of what our new focus is. Okay.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Smelly. I'm with the Canadian Press. How is the federal government planning to change its climate change policies and targets for 2030 and 2035?
Well, the focus, as we stressed on Friday, and we will be going in more detail in the coming weeks, our focus in this very rapidly changing global economy is on what we call climate competitiveness. So we see becoming low carbon in any industry as being a key driver of competitiveness. So let's take conventional oil and gas, offshore, and for example, offshore oil and gas, Bay du Nord as an example. That's one of the lowest carbon new oil fields, depending on how you develop it, but that's the intention, one of the lowest carbon conventional oil and gas opportunities, conventional energy, but oil and gas opportunities that this country has. So we look at that as a way of being competitive in conventional energy. At the same time, we look at the immense opportunity in hydro, again with Churchill. That doesn't just unlock $225 billion, and you know your numbers, Premier, $225 billion for Newfoundland and Labrador. It creates enormous clean power that's going to be one of the key factors for manufacturing going forward, for artificial intelligence, data centers going forward. It creates a host of new economic opportunities in Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec across Canada. So that focus on what can we do in order to drive emissions down in a way that makes the country more competitive is crucial. Last point on it, and I can't stress this enough, our home building strategy, Build Canada Homes, and you'll be hearing more of that in the next few days, that's not just about doubling the number of homes we're building in this country by the end of the decade, or within the next decade. It's about creating a new industry that is lower carbon, that's more efficient, that homes themselves are more energy efficient by more than 20-25%. And all of that will get our emissions down and make us more competitive. So that's the focus of the government. The government is focused on results, making companies, businesses, industries more climate competitive. Thank you.